reusable. This is going to be probably really specific to this issue, but it's still helpful. So this is when we were pairing a week or so ago. We were trying to see if we could get a button to go through this form, and we can't. So that's nice. So now we want to have some sort of message here, and that's why I pinged Marcel to try to see what do we actually want to say here in the terminal. And then the button is going to collect the remote config properties. So we're going to use the VS Code extension API to request these from the user, and that opens up this little box at the top. And then when they submit it, here's the flow that we're thinking of, is we will then do a post to the endpoint of the IDE controller so that the connection token is not in the URL parameters and stuff. And then that's going to trigger the IDE controller to call start remote instead of just start, which currently calls start based on data it gets from the route. But in our new case, it will call start remote based on the data it gets from the query param or from the post. So that's basically it. So then I broke it into really, really small steps. We need the client only config to now.
Anyway, do we have the backend ready for this?
No, so we'll have to do that too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll need plan that I was thinking is, so the client only config will need to pass down a function for how we want to handle starting the remote. I get the remote config, so now the client will need to provide, okay, they went through the whole user form, we're ready to handle it now, so we're going to run that post. Yeah. And so one of the interesting caveats here is that the way these configs get passed down through the iframe and stuff currently is they get serialized and serialized into that iframe, but now we're suggesting we need a function in the config. So how do we handle a function? We can use the message API to do this. We already kind of do that with the ready event. Oh yeah, which I've added links to, so we could try that out. And then and so once we add one that can be run, that's kind of one step. And then the other step would be adding that welcome view that actually adding the welcome view that actually triggers the user form and stuff. And here's the relevant VS Code API with some of those functions, but here's the code that we were putting together to actually run this bit. So that's a pretty good start. And so once we have this kind of working in the example, because we can get this working in the example, then we're ready to publish. We'll publish a new release, and then we'll open an MR to use the new release and set it up with the main GitLab project specific implementation of handle start remote. So that's it. Yeah.
Sounds good. Can we make like can we use the VS Code API to create a form with more than one field?
That's a really good question. Let's see. That's a good question. So these are called the quick fix. It's not necessarily what I think I'm needing. Let me see which one I used up here. Input box. The context menus? No. let me go to see if I can find input box. Maybe here. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. Like, it's a good question. And I really don't know. It's kind of trying to get some feedback from Marcel about that. But he asked some good questions, which I need to respond to.
Just thinking because we have like, we need to set several pieces of data. Like right now we can make progress by just like, I don't know, concatenating them in a single field. I think that's okay. You know, like for the first iteration, maybe we should like in another iteration implement that web view or something like that.
So the way I think I normally see this done is like you'll see, and I think we're planning on doing something similar when we want to commit from here. You can pick, it's like we're going to commit and we're going to show 3 of these like one after the other. It's like, oh, do you want to start a new merge request with this? Yes. And then do we want to create a new branch for it? What's the name of that branch going to be? And then they'll type that in or whatever. So it's like you can show a sequence of these, which is not all at once, which is what I was envisioning. And I know that there's some extensions that do this already. Let's see.
So I think we should keep in mind that Eric like said this, it's okay if this is very low fidelity. It does not
That's
have
true.
to be polished at all.
Yeah.
That's true too. So let's I think we're just going to show these input box one after another. We'll show like 3 of them. It's kind of, I think, the easiest thing to do.
Yeah. Whatever works, I think, is what we need to do.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
All right. I wasn't considering that.
Boring solutions that work as well.
Low shame or no shame.
Okay.
The post for the controller, can you talk like what exactly is happening there? Like for
So-
number 4, the context of it.
Here.
Yeah. Like that's the existing one that's like got a feature flag in it or something.
This is just our main IDE controller.
This
That just has an index. But
it is the same one that shows the legacy web IDE. And
Yeah.
currently it's feature, and we're gonna like feature flag it to do something different in this case, or
I was
or what-
thinking we could either introduce a new action, a new endpoint, and we can only post to it. And that post is going to be important because we don't want to just throw the connection token in the we don't want to just throw the connection token in the URL. So we need some sort of endpoint on the IDE controller to receive a post.
And the second part of that sentence, use the new handle start remote, like what that controller action is gonna do what?
So based on that, when it trickles all the way down to the front end to render, we'll want to do a condition here based on something that we get from our element that, oh, we're doing remote development stuff. So instead of doing just start, I need to do the remote development parameters.
Okay, so it's gonna do,
So I guess that we are gonna call start remote inside the web IDE, right? Inside the extension.
Yeah, so this is when we're instantiating it all. Yeah. So
that's why I'm kind of confused. Where this controller, like this controller is gonna return a response, right? It's not when you say trickle down, like what exactly does that mean?
That's a good, yes. So when it returns a response, is basically the artifact it leaves behind is like the data parameters on those elements. So we
Okay.
can, so those are from the front end, like those are our controls. Is we could either load a brand new page bundle for this, or throw some sort of conditional on the elements. And either one would be fine.
Okay,
I
that
think,
makes
yeah. Okay.
a complete aside. Yesterday, I realized that you know how yesterday we were talking about the web IDE package like has all of these included loose dependencies, like the whole node modules is basically part of the package that is in the GitLab node modules. Those really mess with JetBrains. It like finds all of the finds an expect function in those, like instead of the just expect, and because they're loose files, or I don't know why. And like I tried for like an hour to make it find the right one and failed, but it was interesting. Not saying we need to do anything about it.
Yeah.
We're saying it's slightly annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that can be annoying. Okay. Yeah, so let's start on setting up the example project to kind of receive something like this. And what I'm mostly interested is, I think this will be the more interesting thing to solve. So I might, rather than like even showing three user inputs, I'm just gonna apply this patch, but instead of just showing this information message, let's try to do the path that we would do if we had that configuration parameter coming. So that would be cool. Let's try that out. So I'm gonna go to, I have too many stuff going. I'm gonna go to, is that working on something? Oh, we changed that. All right. The number of folder regions is limited. What are you talking about? All right, so here I am on main. I will create a branch for this, and we're gonna call it add let's do this first thing. Yeah, add handle start remote to config. All right, let's, in a separate terminal, I'm going to start this thing. Okie dokie. So while that thing is running, when I open this and I say, what? Oh, it probably wasn't finished. Okay. Alrighty. So terminal doesn't have anything in it right now because I have not applied the patch. So let's go to apply the patch. I copied it. I'm gonna go to my VS Code where I do PB paste, hit apply. And when this thing is finished, now I should be ready to refresh. Start. There we go. So now the terminal has this welcome view thing. I think I know how to make this button like a full screen button. I really, really want to do that real fast. Let me at least try. It's like it needs to be surrounded with lines to make the button a full screen like button. Oh wait, that's not the right one. This is the right one. And we're just gonna, it's go.
Wait.
Oh, I can't do fancy letters here. Is it like that?
Oh, you want to put like the 2 points on top of the
Yeah.
With a Y, not an I.
With a Y,
Yeah,
gooey. All right.
close enough.
All right. Let's see if that changed this thing at all.
By the way, Paul, so I have well, not it's a kind of unrelated question, but have we considered using shadow realms instead of iframes to insert the web ID inside the GitLab application?
Using shadow what?
Shadow realms.
Shadow realms?
Yeah.
Are they really called shadow realms?
Yeah, yeah, it's
That sounds like some Dark Lord stuff, man.
Shallow or shadow? Shadow?
shadow. Yeah, like you know the
You know,
the dark thing.
yeah. When they asked me what kind of front end developer I wanted to be, I chose the path of righteousness. So I did not get the Ridicon.
You
That
should really join the dark side.
okay.
It's funnier. It's
Necronomicon.
funnier.
Next, that's what I was yes. No, so I'm not familiar with shadow realms at all, clearly.
It's a way of creating in an isolated environment that is like it has a memory context independent from from the global window without needing to
Wow.
create an iframe. It's a new standard, and I
Cool.
think that it's implemented by Chrome and Firefox already. And
Cool.
Safari has an implementation, but I think that they had to pull it back for
I
some
dropped
reason.
the link.
Oh, you did?
But I'm very interested in
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
the
There's no
combinator. Yeah.
there's no reason. iframe is just a implementation detail. We just want something sandboxed, and so if there's other sandboxes, and that'd be really interesting. The thing that we would definitely run into issues if we just did not have a sandbox, and that's why it's worth wrapping all this in an iframe. So that's really interesting. No, I'll have to check it out. And yeah, if you want to see if it'll work, so that would basically look like in our web IDE here where we're doing all this iframe creating stuff is maybe we just create some sort of shadow realm.
But if it's not supported in Firefox, I don't think that.
I think it'll work.
It also said not in active development on that first page.
I thought like Firefox, I think that their engineering team published a blog post about it recently. But maybe I don't know. But I know that like in the future, I think that it's a better alternative than iframes. Maybe next year. And it's easier to provide a better user experience. We don't have all of the limitations that they has.
Mhm.
It's easier to communicate between the outer environment and the inner environment.
I think I see what you're saying. It's possible that VS Code depends on more of the like document being globally available because it creates like some globals, and we're also loading like VS Code CSS and stuff as well. And iframe helps all of that be sandboxed. So I don't know. That would be, but that's interesting. I'm not familiar with Shadow Realms at all.
You need Shadow Realms running on top of web containers.
Ah, that's and that's a really, I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of use cases here. And I wonder, like, this would be a huge improvement on VS Code already for sandboxing extensions. So that seems really interesting. Oh gosh. And now that I'm thinking about it too, like we do so much, like when we render mermaid stuff, we now wrap all of our mermaid stuff in the iframe for security reasons. And maybe something like this would be simpler. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I feel like it can simplify all of those use cases. Like security here is like the security application security at GitLab is very interested in sandboxing all of those environments and third-party libraries.
Yeah,
And that's a really good solution for that.
that's an interesting point. Where did you pick up the shadow realms? Was this when you're communing with the data demons?
With data dark lords.
We have a meetup in the Dominican Republic.
They like the Caribbean. They like the warm weather. Yeah, I think that I read about that on Hacker News. I'm always like reading Hacker News, and I always pick that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. No, thanks for sharing this. That's really interesting. All right.
Back to our boring
Oh.
stuff.
Yes. Yes, you can do that. Okay. Thanks. All right. Yes, let's get back to where we have our button. I thought I could make this a full screen button, but that wasn't really doing anything. So that's not a problem though. Here, instead of showing the information message, so right now we just show input box, and I say URL, but looking at what we actually call it everywhere else, I think we want to call it remote authority. So let me see what labels we use when we actually run this thing. Yeah, we call it remote authority. So I think I'm going to call it remote authority. And then what we want to do is, so to do gather more info, which is host path and connection token. But let's assume we got all our stuff. So we want to, just like when we're calling ready, we want to call something that's like, oh, we're gonna go start the remote stuff. So this is where the mediator commands are going to come in, because we need to break out of our extension sandbox world. And so what I think is going to happen is, let's go ahead and export one here called start remote. And we'll take in our, I don't know, I'm just going to say val string right now. And these return a VS Code thing called a venable. Well, I don't think we actually need to return anything. So I'll just say it's void. So we don't need to really return anything.
What is a tenable?
Void is a venable.
It's like a maybe type.
This is a pretty, so it's like a promise. This is a level of abstraction above a promise.
Okay.
So for some reason, VS Code has required venables. What I'm going to run is VS Code commands, execute command, and we want to do this command start remote with our val that we got. Okay, this is failing because, oh, because it's it needs to return, it actually needs to return a promise. I actually don't need to declare the type. It's smart enough to know what type I am returning. All right, let me jump to the VS Code mediator commands. So here in our commands, I need to rename these. To do rename. We call this gitlab-web-ide now.
It looked like there were still errors in that command. There were nothing important.
And here,
Oh, it's just a typo.
Well, it's
Okay.
because I don't have the value of
Oh, okay, got it.
I'm going like the client first here. So command, that's not how you type spell start at all. um, I'll go ahead and start doing it the right way. We need to call it this probably. GitLab-web-ide start remote. I don't know what naming convention we want to use here either. Okay, but I'll go ahead and then create these commands here. So this is where we declare and create all of those mediator commands. And I'll create that here with start remote and the handler. And so because we're going to need to deal with the function, because we are needing to trigger custom behavior from outside the iframe, we have to, we'll just post a message from here for the iframe creator to handle. All right, and I guess we can just call it start remote, but we're gonna get some values too. So I'm just gonna spread the args. What do you think?
Are we passing an? Oh, we're passing an object, right? Or maybe we can create a params property and assign the args.
A params property?
Yeah, it's like separating the command name from the data that it has attached, like separating the payload from the metadata.
Can you guide me through that?
Yeah, like we're in line 40 instead of spreading args. Well, that's almost exactly what I mean. It's just like that works. Now
Okay.
that object has like an args property that contains the arguments that we want to attach to the command.
Yeah.
But like it's what I meant was like not spreading them, because in that case it could be like it mix the key property with the data that we are passing to the command.
Right. Got it. So right now we do, so it's probably wise for us to have the same interface as this function that we'll call. And yeah, that's the same. So let's just use val, and let's just throw it in there as well. Like, so whatever, I think down the line we'll end up having like config, like a whole config, and we'll just pass that down as well. So that makes sense. Does this sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay.
I need to drop. See you later.
See you, chat. Enjoy the snorkeling. Is it snorkeling? Yeah,
Oh,
I
have
think
a
so.
lovely time. That'll be beautiful.
Yeah.
All the little pezzes.
Passes.
How do you say fish? Pescado?
Yeah, we were
Yeah,
like
Pez.
swimming in caves yesterday, and caves, heights, all that stuff doesn't scare me, but snorkeling seems really scary to me. I didn't like it last time, so yeah, we'll see.
Oh man. All right.
Bye.
Enjoy a lot. Bye.
Okay. So now this means that we need to handle something like this from the iframe creator, which is this web ID.
Mhm.
So here, this is where I've created a thing of like, okay, we need to wait. We need to handle this ready message. So that's for better or for worse. That's the let me dive into what this ready is doing. I've all of this of starting the web ID is a promise. And I thought it made sense to, we'll just resolve the promise when we're ready. So, so that's what's happening here. Although I do wonder, hey, it's possible maybe we never get this message from the content window. So maybe we don't have to
Why you
resolve.
gonna get it?
I don't know. If something blew
Oh,
up,
maybe an error or something like
yeah,
that.
if something blew up. So like maybe this isn't the best interface, but that's not in scope. So we're gonna worry about that later. So I do think we will, so this is all handling just waiting for ready, but I think we're gonna create one to handle handle messages, or yeah, handle messages. And so we'll need the iframe, and we'll need our config. Okay, I don't think we need to return anything. But before we wait for ready, we'll have to set up handling the messages first. We'll need our config. This is where we will do a similar thing to what we're doing up here. And I guess we don't need to figure out how we don't want to duplicate this later, if that's a problem. But when we listen to messages, we get a message event. Okay. So then if we get a start remote event, that's what we called it, start remote key. Maybe it makes sense for these to be in some constants. Maybe these keys should be in some constants. And yeah, so if we're there, then we're gonna do something.
I think that TypeScript supports enumerations, right?
What'd you say?
That TypeScript supports enumerations.
Yes. Yeah, so we can have
We
enums.
add an
Yep.
enum.
Yeah, we could totally do it that way too. Yeah. And you can have like string-based enums as well. That's a good
Yeah.
point. So then I want to look at my config, and I want to see if, so right now we're doing any config, which means that we're not getting our client only config. So that's where this thing is actually going to live. The oops, we're going to have handle start remote is optionally something that takes in a string and doesn't need to return anything.
I got lost in there. Can you show me how is this handler, the handler start remote works? Like, how do we call it and how do we pass it? Are we passing that from the iframe?
So these types come from the client, the main client. So they get set in our example project, or the main GitLab project will set these.
Oh, okay.
And so we receive them here in our entry point. We have a start that takes the client config, or we have a start remote that takes the remote config. All of this is all the same no matter what kind of config you have. But so then we use this any config type.
Mhm.
And so now I am running into a situation where, okay, I'm here handling messages for any config, but I don't have access to the client only specific config stuff. So I think I'm going to do this. I don't know if this is good or not, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to say handle just for client. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Then when I'm in here, I can call this. So I could say, hey, if we have start, if this is start remote, and if we have a handle start remote, I can call this with e.data. Now.
And I guess that handle restart remote returns a promise, right? Because it's an API call.
Well, it's whatever we say it wants to return. So we care about waiting for a promise, we can do that. Or that space, we're giving the client the interface they have to adhere to. So I think it's fine if it's void, because it doesn't have to be. We don't really need to wait for that.
Oh, okay. I thought that like to start remote, we need to make a backend API call that returns a token, and then we use that token to connect the web ID to the remote session, to the remote runtime.
Yeah, I mean, so that probably makes sense to make it a promise. I think so. Make it a promise. What's wrong?
I mean, I don't know. I just like talking based on what we've been talking about.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's good. It's still, yeah, I think that's good. We still won't really be able to wait for the promise here, which is interesting. I'll add it to do we need to wait for this? Yeah. What's your problem? It wants me to wait for it.
Then let's not make it a promise in the meanwhile.
Okay.
If we need it, it's gonna be a promise, right?
Yeah, if we need it to be a promise, we'll figure that out. But in this context, we won't be able to wait for it because like the message listener can't be, that'll be a little interesting. We have to anticipate receiving these messages and not really being able to control stopping receiving them or something.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I think so now I think when I'm here, what I'm going to do, handle messages. Okay, so I'm going to do handle messages for client config, and this is going to be upset, but I'm only going to do this if config type equals client only.
Where is client only?
That's just a that's a value for
Okay.
the type, some sort of
Sorry, I forgot that.
serializable value that we can check at runtime of what the type is, because we won't be able to do like instance of interface, because these interfaces are all removed. by TypeScript.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm going to basically do config as client only config. Yeah, great. I think that's great. So now we're so close, so close. Oh man, and we're almost at time. Now let's go to when we actually start this thing up. And when we call start, yeah, let's throw in our own handle config thing so we can test it out here. Handle start remote. Val. So maybe for right now we can just console log it. You tried to start the remote. All right, and now it should work without any problems whatsoever. All right, so let's try it out. Oh, okay, it's building. Are we finished building? We're still going. All right. Start. Here we go. Right, let me open my terminal. Start remote. Oh, sorry. So close. Not yet. I don't think. Yeah, we're not. Yeah, it's still showing the message instead of calling that command that we wanted to. So here, where we're handling the start remote command, and we show.
Oh yeah,
box.
we have to invoke the command.
Yep, and so we can just get that from here. These commands, start remote. Start remote. What's wrong with you? Oh, so we'll only do this if we actually got something. Okay.
Wow, that script is awesome.
Yeah, TypeScript is really good. All right. Let's try that again. This console error is a known issue, and there's an issue for it. Be great to start remote. Oh, yay. All the way to the
Yes.
example project, we got a console log. So we could do something really fancy. We could do I forgot. We have query params for this stuff. So we can get really fancy with it. I will want to get just a little fancy with it. Yes, we call it remote host. Yeah, let's do it. So here, handle start remote, we'll do this. We will want to get the current URL, but add the query param. Current URL, add query param for remote host. And visit that URL. How do we do that? Something like this is right?
I think that you can do it directly, like just like window location dot search or dot params. Yeah, search params.
Something like this, and then I can go. I don't know. Is this how you visit URLs?
Yeah, that should like take it to a new one, or just assigning directly to window dot location.
Yeah, let's try that out. See if that did it. All right, and then I know we gotta go. All right, boom, start the remote.
Ooh, amazing.
Cool. All right. Nice. If I did it again. Oh, I'm in the remote host thing now. So this is different. The remote host doesn't use the main extension thing. So if you do start this up, yeah, it's trying to connect to that backend, and then it's obviously freaking out. So
Oh, I also that's already working then.
the remote host will work. It's just you need to set it up. So Vishal, Thomas would be able to help with that, but Vishal would be able to help with that since Thomas is out too. So
That's really cool.
yeah.
Well,
Cool.
it's really nice that we only have to hook everything up, right? Like just like connecting all the dots.
Yeah. So now, yeah, from this side, we should be able to have the example that just loads it with all those parameters that are set up. And then it's publishing the package and getting it hooked up to the GitLab thing, and that's it. Yeah, so it should be pretty good. I'm glad that the post message thing worked out well. So let me commit this as I don't know. What did we do? We add start remote button to empty terminal view. Also added handle started config to client only config. Yeah, also added an example implementation for handle started config. Cool. Maybe that's a sign that I'm not good at making small commits. If all of my commits have also. Yeah. It's good. It's good hanging out with you this last couple of days, Enrique.
Yeah, I hope that we can continue doing these preparing sessions. I'm gonna be out until October 31st because I'm gonna be traveling to
Nice.
Spain.
Nice.
So I won't be able to help a lot on this one, but I'm glad that I'm learning a lot. So probably in the next milestone or after I come back, I can be, I don't know, do some sort of small contributions and continue learning.
Yeah. And I think addressing a lot of the to-dos that we created here too will be a big deal. So yeah, that sounds awesome.
Cool, Paul.
All right. I will let you go. Thanks for hanging out, Enrique.
Thank you, Paul. Have a good day.
Bye.